from Romford. This is a question to the Council Leader Michael White. Councillor White, I would like to ask some questions and also raise some concerns about the format and frequency of these new sessions. Back in August this year, several residents, including myself, turned up for the advertised Ask the Cabinet meeting. We were informed when we arrived in the foyer of the Town Hall that this meeting had been cancelled and there would be no more meetings as they were being replaced by a different format. I'm sure that you will appreciate that this was a great inconvenience, as we'd all made the effort to come and our time had been wasted. One lady had travelled all the way from Hertfordshire to raise serious concerns, and you would not even spare 5 minutes to speak to her. Together, after I emailed you, you did agree to have a meeting with her. The next opportunity residents had to speak with you was the Meet the Cabinet event that took place on the 20th of October 2012. This was part of Local Democracy Week. For some reason, this event did not get much publicity. In fact, the first time you mentioned it was on your leaders' blog on the 19th of October, which was the day before the event. With all due respect, Councillor White, your blog does not get a large amount of hits, so how are people supposed to know that this event was taking place? You even uploaded a video on your leaders' blog on the 16th of October announcing Local Democracy Week, but failed to mention the Meet the Cabinet event that was due to take place on the 20th of October. Then it gets even more ridiculous. You then upload a video on your blog with you actually at the event and ask residents to come and see you, but the date that you actually uploaded was 2 days after the event took place. I know that you've had a few Meet the Leader sessions between the last Ask the Cabinet in July and this meeting, but these take place during the day when most people are at work. Councillor White, it would seem to me that you are going to a lot of effort to avoid speaking to residents. If you find it difficult to face the public, then maybe it's time to step down and let one of your colleagues take over as leader. With regard to the format of these new meetings, I would like to ask who you consulted about making the changes. The most obvious people to speak to would have been the people that attended the Ask the Cabinet meetings. Instead, we found out when we turned up for the advertised August meeting, only to be told it was cancelled. Also, in the recent edition of Living magazine, you state that these meetings would be more beneficial for residents as there is more time allocated to raise questions. However, if you work it out over a year, with the Ask the Cabinet sessions, there was 9 hours in which residents could raise questions. With these new meetings, it actually equates to 6 hours. Please also bear in mind that there is also 4 months between each meeting, and residents wanting to question you will also have less time due to questions that may be raised to other members of the panel. The highest turnouts at the previous Ask the Cabinet meetings were always due to planning and policy issues that were made by this administration. I feel that these new meetings are not fit for purpose, and I would be interested to hear your comments.
Yes, there's a number of points that you raised there. In relation to the Ask the Cabinet, yes, there was a mistake. The published dates that went out in Living shouldn't have gone out in Living, and we were on record of apologising for those. What I arranged for was a kind of mini Ask the Cabinet where I had colleagues around in my office and elsewhere. If people turn up, their inquiries would have been dealt with. My blog is really interesting. I think it was 40,000 hits last year. I think it was something like that. Someone told me. So it does get a lot of traction. Mind you, I think you probably look at it more than most. So maybe a lot of it may be down to you. Well, you seem to be looking at it quite a lot. Anyway, I would say that you will know that in relation to Ask the Cabinet, we did used to, from time to time. The attendance used to vary. I remember once having a meeting here with no one here actually. We waited for 45 minutes and not a single soul turned up, and when that happens you have to question whether what what you're doing is the right thing. We decided to have a review, as most administrations do at the moment, look at what they're doing, try to figure out whether what we was doing working. A number of us had a view that it wasn't working because the level of attendance, in fact, there's probably more people here tonight than there's been in the last 5 or 6 Ask the Cabinet meetings. I think that this meeting, I think, is a much better format. It gives an opportunity for people to ask the public services across Havering about the delivery of those services, something that we haven't had for a long time. When I first became involved as a councillor, I think it's 19 years I've been on this council now, we used to have a thing called Civics, and Civics was very similar to this. For those of you who remembered Civics, people would come along and ask questions of the public services about what's going on. I thought that worked really well. We always used to have, and I know a number of us do remember, used to have lots of people in this room asking questions about public services. And more nowadays, the council doesn't act alone. It acts as partners with the police, with the voluntary sector, and with the health service. And I think it's absolutely right that the residents of Havering have an opportunity to ask questions of its public services. This is the first question question time in this town hall. There is a view, one that I believe and one that I've got officers working on, that we actually take it out of this town hall, so we go to Upminster, to Hornchurch, to Rainham, and to make sure that we're much more focused there with those residents. I do my Meet the Leader. I'm probably the only leader in London, I know one or two copy me now, that actually go and stand in town centres and talk to people, and I do that once every 4 to 4 weeks or so. Once I think someone actually said I was quite brave to do that, but who knows? I think I get a lot out of that. I'm always open. The gentleman tonight asked me to come to Priory Road, and I'm quite happy to do that, and I believe I'm always open and transparent and willing to go and listen to people and deal with their concerns. I think that's right. As the leader of the council, I should do this, and it's something I've done in the 8 years I've been leader since day one. I'm always happy to go and meet people. And I'm always looking to find out ways in which we can improve the way in which the council communicates with its residents. I think that's right. And I think one of the shameful things, one of the things that I'm not happy with, I have to be careful, I don't want to criticise my own government, but I think that the restrictions of the way in which this council communicates with its residents is one that concerns me in relation to the written material. I'd like to do a lot more, but I'm told that I can't. And if I did, I'd get in a lot of trouble, so I won't. And therefore, I have to try other mediums. And I think this medium will be a good one. And if tonight's attendance is anything to go by, then already we're on to a good thing. But wait and see. Ask me in 2 years' time whether I think this is good or not.
The fact that people have got to wait now, there'll be now another 4-month gap for the next meeting. Do you really think that's sufficient?
Well, I think that if it's not, then we'll change it. This is something that I think we need to keep under review. I have to be aware of the time that the people on the panel with me are very busy. They have to. I would like to have the police and the health service in some form here at every meeting, because you've heard tonight. A lot of the questions have not been for me; they've been for my colleagues up here. And I think if we're going to serve our community properly, then we need to make sure that we get all the public services around the table and deal with your very, very the concerns that you have. Otherwise, we'd be failing. So, I think quarterly fine. If it turns out that there's too much of a gap between quarterly, then we'll have conversations about just how frequently we can make them.
Right, can I ask how you would judge that?
I think, for me, it's two things. It's people here, things they might say to you in your paper, and also when we get to look at the figures about those people who are watching us on the web tonight, because obviously not everybody comes. People come home from work, they've got other things to do. The thing about the web and the archiving is I find that a lot of people tend to watch it later on during the week at their own convenience, and it's those types of things. I'm looking for better participation from our community, because there's still a lot to be done. There's lots of key questions coming up. You heard me speak earlier about the 40 million that we've taken out of services, and I know that the health service and the police have got similar challenges in front of them. And no doubt that, in a year or two's time, we're going to have another CSR. Do I think that the country's in a better place than it was 3 years ago? Well, that's an argument we can all have, whether you think it is or isn't. But my betting, if I know government, is that we're going to be asked for more cuts. And that will be tough, and we'll have to make decisions. And I hope that these types of forums will give us an opportunity to talk to the residents of Havering about, what we do and how we do it. Okay.
So if there's a big enough response, you'll have them more often?
I think so. I mean, this is the first one. I'm really pleased to see so many people here tonight. There's room for a few more. And you know, let's hope that this type of thing continues. It'd be great to actually go out to Hornchurch and to Rainham and to Upminster and to give those residents out there a chance to come along locally and ask us all questions.